Char friends, welcome back. We're in the Forward Emotional 6.5 day sequence, and we're going to talk about day 6.5. So, the last 12 hours in this emotional sequence. And the last 12 hours of this sequence is located right here in this white rectangular box. Now, as always, we start out by talking about this pattern of polarity moments. When we broke the mathematics of the sentient space time reality, and sentient means we're emotional beings, and what we found out is that this pattern activates our defensive design and uses our emotions against us to try to get us to do one of two things: run away and ignore our problems, or stand up and fight for our problems in hurtful ways. And every week we do an analysis both of the week that's coming and the individual days within this week to show you where this pattern is, whether we're going to have first person irritation. That's the irritation we have with all the people in our life we see on a day to day basis, our family members, our work members, our community members. Or if we're going to be irritated by the bigger picture, the third person polarity moments, this is what individuals invest in the bigger picture, and we're all designed to see this differently. Now, we combine these first and third perspectives and create a combined pattern to show you when your defensive mechanisms are going to be engaged. Now, 4 is the number we warn everybody about. And 4 is when you're really going to notice that things are going to be hard to stay calm and patient and work things out without wanting to run away or make your problems worse. Understanding this pattern is a huge advantage, because if you can eliminate your stress and you can know when this pattern is going to try to trick you into creating stress, what you do is you slow the aging process, and you can stop and even reverse states of disease that have already started to happen within your own physical body. Now, those are the immediate reasons you want to do this. The other reason you want to do this, we're going to discuss in just a second when we get to the objective. Before we move down there, what we really need to focus on here is what's going to happen in this next 12 hours. So, in the previous 24 hours, we discussed that a single emotional polarity moment was starting to happen. That's this elevation right here. And you can see that that's going to continue through this next 12-hour sequence. So, what this is going to do is it's going to try to agitate us in that bigger picture, that third person perspective, how we want the world to work out. And if it's not going the way we want to, well, then that's going to stress us out. Don't worry about that right now. Now, the good news is this: first person agitation is actually pretty light in this next 12-hour sequence. And even when we combine first and third, you can see here's that 4 number right here. And in the beginning of this sequence, we get to a 4 and stay above it, but it's not so big. Now, the last sequence here before we connect into the next one, which will be the 4-7, that's kind of a big deal. So think of it this way: we've gotten to a metaphorical low tide. The tide is going to stop for a moment, and then it's going to reverse direction. So during this reversal in direction between third person and first person perspective, that in itself is going to cause a lot of agitation. Now, it's not going to be anything like when we started out this 4-8. You can see how agitated the combined level was when we started this one. It will not be that strong, but because this one created so much stress and a lot of that stress is still lingering, it's not going to be easy. So this is a red alert day. Whenever we get to the end of the sequence and we're going to start a new sequence, red alert. Now, what are these polarity moments trying to stop us from doing? This is what they're doing. They're activating our defensive nature, and it's making it awful hard for us to get along with our teammates. You see, in this sentient space-time reality, we all come from the same mathematical family. We're all born into this reality not knowing we're born sons and daughters, and we're trying to figure out how we fit in with the team and what we're going to contribute to the team. Now, here's the problem: our families that we came from, we've been disconnecting over time, and this is because we're designed to do this. We're defensive in nature, which means we overinvest in our own individual and family strategies, and we do this because we think that this is the best strategy to give the generations that we bring into this world a leg up or an advantage. Now, after thousands of years of doing this, what happens is we get all these families and all these individuals competing, and that's what's creating all of the division in the larger picture right now in our nation and our world. Now, if we want to balance the nation and the world out, what we have to do is we have to come to this understanding what it is we're in. There is no debating this. This is just math. This is a sentient space-time construct. We're emotional beings. We're supposed to work through our emotions in positive ways, but the problem is we're designed to be defensive. That defensive design has actually created the challenge now that we have to correct, and this is why you'd have to correct it, and this is what you'd have to do in order to correct it. First of all, you have to commit to your team. You have to stop letting your defensive design get you to argue with any member of the team, whether it's from your bloodline or whether they live on the opposite side of the world. The next thing you need to do is make sure that you understand what our team is supposed to be doing together. You see, this sentient space-time reality tricks us into fighting with one another when the truth is the only thing that we really have to fight is our desire to be destructive or negative, to run away from our problems or make our problems worse. If we can overcome this pattern, then it allows us to bring our team together and it allows us to have a single focus in what our team will do. Now, every team member is expected to do this. They're expected to have a daily routine that makes sure that not only is their family going to have a better future, but what they invest in is going to help every family equally. Same thing at the individual level. Whatever they do to help themselves as an individual, their routine better also equally help all the other individuals we share this world with. At the national level, we all need to be investing in our nations and taking pride in our nations, but understanding for any nation to be strong, it has to lift the other nations up around it. Now, if we can lift our nations together, lift our individuals together, and lift all families together, what we're going to do is we're going to create an interconnected world that's balanced and peaceful and prosperous for all of us. Now, that is what we're supposed to do. It's that simple. Now, it is simple to explain, but extremely difficult to do because our feelings are being used against us. This sentient construct uses our feelings to create defensive reactions. If we overcome those reactions and we understand this construct, then it's very easy to use your willpower to, one, get along with your teammates, and two, decide that you're going to balance your routine. Now, we've made this as simple as possible for you. The governing frequency, so this interactive experience is just made possible by frequency. And the governing frequencies are actually connected to the four quadrants of our body. So we've color coded them here for you. Now, if you have problems with any quadrant of your body, where you're having ill effects or you're having disease states start to set in, or you're just seeing that that part of your body is experiencing faster destruction or arthritic change, this is why. You're just out of balance. You're not getting along with specific teammates and you're not balancing your routine. So, the more unbalanced your approach is with your teammates and the more unbalanced your routine is, that will determine what quadrants of your body will be affected negatively. This is a biofeedback system. If you're in alignment with these frequencies, which are all about teamwork and balancing routine, your body will be in perfect alignment and you get 3 rewards. The first reward is you're going to slow the aging process in your body. The second reward is you're going to stop the progression of disease because stress is accumulative. And the more stress you accumulate, the more likely you're going to have future states of disease. Now, the final one is the most important one. If you understand this construct, you overcome your defensive nature, you commit to your team, and you balance your routine. And when you balance your routine, this is what it means. You have to physically get along with everybody, and you have to physically balance day to day to make sure that the world that you leave is going to be better than the one that you were born into. And if that's what happens, you'll get to graduate out of the negative side of this simulated experience, and you'll get to transition into the positive side of it. Think of it like a digital heaven. You'll be in a reality where bad things don't happen to you, good things happen to you. Now, that's the reward for overcoming this design and using your willpower to overcome the way that you feel. To help prove that we're in a mathematical construct, that's what we do this 24-hour period for, okay? In this next 24-hour period, we're actually only going to talk about the first 12 hours because this is where it's going to connect into the next sequence, the 4-7 starts, and you can see the violent exchange that's going to happen here. You see how third person is really elevated at the end of this sequence, and then in a split moment, that's going to reverse polarity, and first person is going to become very agitated, okay? So super important, and in the next 12 hours, we're going to do a whole nother forecast, and we're going to start at this point and move 24 hours forward. So in this forecast, we're only going to talk about the first 12 hours, and we're only going to talk about the alignments in the first 12 hours. Now, what we've done here is we've zoomed this in for you. And when we zoom it in, we align these times and we have all 24 time zone offsets here. So to find your time zone offset, you come down here, you find your offset. This will hold for 10 seconds. Screenshot it. This is for people that don't have good internet. If you've got great internet, we've got a live feed at healthreconnected.com. You go to that, you open it up, you hit play, and a time bar progresses through the sequence. So this sequence is going to immediately help you see that when you get defensive or the people around you are being defensive, you can reference this graph and you will see that when this is elevated, that's when it's happening, meaning you're being manipulated. You just didn't know. And we didn't know because we're designed not to know, okay? This construct is supposed to be difficult. Once we figure this out, even though we are giving you this information, it is not going to change how you feel. The only thing that can happen is you can overcome that feeling to be destructive and decide to be cooperative, to communicate clearly and understand what the objective is. If you refuse to understand the objective or you refuse to change your routines, this pattern's not going to help you too much. Okay. So again, very important you understand this and very important you reference it anytime you're feeling defensive. Now, the other way that we can prove to you that you're in a simulated reality are these alignments. This is when two frequencies that are testing either the same relationship or the same routine, they align for a moment in time, and how long this alignment happens tells you how long it's going to last. And then these alignments are connected to specific quadrants of your body. So if during this alignment time, when the time bar is running through this, and you feel things in the quadrants of your body that we're showing you here, that's a direct hit. And what it's telling you is this. It's giving you negative feedback and it's saying, hey, if you don't feel well, it's because you need to do better with your teammates. Or, hey, if you're not feeling well, it's because you're not balancing your routine. All right, so let's talk about these alignments. And the first one we're going to talk about is this ME. It's this one right here. This is going to affect the upper quadrant of the body, specifically the left upper quadrant. Now, the upper quadrants of the body in first person perspective have to do with how we get along with the mature members of our team. If you have problems getting along with the mature members, whether you're a younger member or whether you're a mature member trying to get along with your peers, if you have problems getting along in those relationships and it's negative and you're avoiding and you're creating conflict, then you're going to be out of balance with this alignment. And this is where you're going to feel it in the upper left quadrant. And this is going to go on for an hour and a half. So if you get headaches, sinus problems, memory issues, anything that has to do with this upper left quadrant, while that time bar is running through this, that's a direct hit and it's letting you know you're in a mathematically dictated reality and it's trying to help you understand what you'd want to change. And if you don't change it, then you're going to continue to suffer. Okay. Let's move on to the next two. We're going to talk about both of these kind of together. Now, the first one we're going to talk about is the EP. And you can see they're right on top of each other. You see the blue line and then there's a purple line there. So the EP is going to test how well we get along with the younger members of the team, the exact opposite of what we just talked about. This is how we get along with males and females that are developing and becoming more aware of their team and what they're going to provide for their team. This is all about positive relationship. Are these younger members able to have positive relationship, talk about routines, work through their stress, coordinate, and strategize together? That's simple. If you're having a problem with the younger members of the team, whether you're older or younger, you're going to feel something not so fun if you're imbalanced in here. Okay. That's what this one's going to do. Now, the other alignment that's happening actually has to do with routines. So on the time side, this has to do with our routines are balanced. And specifically, this is going to test us for 3 hours and it's going to put pressure on this upper left quadrant again. And this has to do with if you're balancing your routine on a day-to-day basis and contributing to the national and the world level. So in your routine, if you contribute to the national level, but it really helps you more than it helps all the other people in your nation, you're out of balance. The more out of balance you are with perfectly balancing our world and nation, the more your body's going to feel destructive interference. That's how this works. It's that simple. If you have something happen up here during this moment in time where we're showing you, that just tells you you got to do better with your routine. You got to think about the bigger picture and make sure what you're doing in your day-to-day routine is going to make that bigger picture better for the future generations that come after you. All right, so that's it for the alignments. All right, we're going to move down here now. We're going to quickly talk about testing sequence. And again, we're only talking about this first 12 hours. So left upper quadrant, there's quite a bit going on here. You can see that the number 4, everything above that gets into the red. That's a lot of frequencies testing it. So during this 12 hours, if you happen to feel your left upper quadrant more or your right lower quadrant more, don't be surprised. Now, right upper and left lower, they're a little bit less. So again, this pattern just shows you why things would feel more in one area or another area depending on how many frequencies are testing it. And again, we're only being tested on how well we get along with our teammates and how balanced our routines are. Now, what these two graphs do is they show you where the strongest frequencies are positioned in this next 12 hours. And you can see that in the next 12 hours, there are no strong frequencies positioned in the upper right quadrant. So it's not very likely that upper right quadrant stuff is going to be happening. However, when you look at the other quadrants, there's overlap, meaning if you have problems in the upper left, or if you have problems in the lower left or the lower right, well, which one is it? It's so important you document. If you document, we can use our software, we can tease out exactly what the issues are depending on when you hurt, how long you hurt, and where you hurt, and we can help you understand where you need to focus first. Whether you need to start to focus more on balancing your routines or whether you really need to focus on getting along with teammates. Now, don't overcomplicate this. You need to work out all your issues with your teammates and you need to start balancing your routines. The faster you do that, the sooner you won't have to worry about these charts. That's how easy that is. All right, so now we're going to end this thing out and we're going to talk about what we've done down here for you. We've got the rest of 2024 posted. These are the electromagnetics. This is the unseen pattern of chaos. When this pattern goes up, so does social tension and environmental disasters. When this pattern goes down, things will subside. Now, this is what's been animating and making all of the stress on our lives. And the sooner we get people to invest in overcoming this pattern, and the more people we get to overcome this pattern, the sooner we can make the bigger picture better for all of us. That's why we do this. Now, the other thing is this. We want to extend our collective lifespan because it's going to take time for people to balance their relationships and to balance their routines. You see, if you die before your relationships are balanced and you die before your routines are balanced, then you don't pass the objective and you come back to this negative feedback loop again and again and again until you do. Now, we're trying to help you understand how to do this as quickly as possible, but please understand this is going to take a lot of your willpower and a lot of effort and a whole lot of change. And that's what we're here to help you do. All right. That's enough for this 12 hours. We'll see you in the next.